Hey everyone, welcome back to Minibike Mike's Garage, and this is video 2 on the Honda CT70 K3 that we've been working on. There is one previous video to this. This is part 2, and hopefully the last of the videos on this bike. Hopefully by the time we're done here, we'll have it all complete and be up and running and take it around the block or something. But pretty much what you can see, that's this. Everything right here is what we got accomplished in the first video. I'll put a link in the description. And I'm ready to jump in and tackle a few other things today. The first thing I think I'm going to do is take a look at this tank. This is the original tank that was in this frame. And it doesn't look horrible. And I'm not seeing any visible holes or anything in it. So I think what I'm going to do is throw some evaporust in it, just to make sure it's clean and good to use. Okay, we've got a plugged reserve port that we've got to clean out. This is the regular for the on. It sticks up a little higher for the fuel level up here. And then once you get past that, then it starts draining from this one. And it's flush with the bottom of the tank, and all the crap and everything has settled in there, so this one's plugged. So we need to cut this hose off, unplug that, plug the hole, all this back up, so then we can pour some evaporust in it. I apologize if you're hearing some noise in the background. My heat is running. It's currently, what is today, November 10th, I think, Monday. And we got snow in central Indiana last night. And so it's a little chilly outside, so my heat's kicked on. I'm going to go ahead and take both of these lines off, even though this one's clear. I forgot to grab a piece of wire. Hang on just one second. All right, there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put both of those lines back on here. I'm going to cut them down short. Cut them off, put them back on, take a little pair of vice grips, and just, ooh, I don't know, maybe that line is too brittle to use. You know what? I think I'm going to go get another line, get some stuff that's got a little more give to it. Maybe I'll just put one short one and do to loop around both so that we can plug it off to put the evaporust in. So yeah, so I just used a small piece of line. Doubled that up. Probably could have used a shorter one, but anyway. So I'm going to go fill this with some stuff. Make sure it holds it. It doesn't have any holes in it. And let that sit for a day or so. See if we can't get what little bit of stuff is in there. Clean out the rest of it. So I'm pretty excited about that. It does look like the tank is in decent shape and does not have any pinholes in it, and it's holding fluid. So I think as soon as we get this cleaned out, I think we'll be able to reuse the original tank from the bike. Well, while the tank is doing its thing back there, we'll go ahead and move to something else. I think I'm going to throw a chain on this. And I should have jacked the bike up so that we can be able to spin the rear tire. Get on there. Oh wow, we got a much longer chain than what we really need. You know what, instead of cutting that down, I'm going to take just a second. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to get my lift to be able to lift up the rear end so we can spin the tire. And I think I'm going to look for a shorter chain. Well, no, apparently I do not have any chains that are any shorter than this one. So this is what we're going to go with, and we'll make it work. All right, so about right there. So we need to take this one off right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in case I lose the lose the spot. Lost it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this one. There, the pin dropped out. All right. You can buy these on Amazon for 15 bucks maybe, and it just pushes the pin out to shorten the chain. Let's see if I pick the right one. I'll try and remember to put a link to that little chain brake in the description of the video in case somebody's interested in one. It works actually really well. Okay, it needs to come back more. Do I have that much room to slide the axle back? I'd rather have it toward the back to lengthen my wheelbase, and then if I want to go to a bigger front sprocket at some point, then that gives me room to slide it forward to make up for that without having to adjust the chain. So let's try this, see if it's going to work. All right, so I'm going to tighten that up and make sure that works the way we want it to. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. It still does have just a very slight bit more of adjustment to go tighter if I need to, if the chain stretches. If it does stretch beyond being able to tighten it up, I may just swap it to a larger sprocket. This is a 16, I'm running a 16-33 combination. I may go to a 17, which would then scoot things back up a little bit, give us room. If you didn't watch video 1, this is a aftermarket 110cc engine that I'm running on it. Let's see, do we need to put this on first? Probably do. Hang on, so let's go ahead and put the chain guard and kind of wrap this up over here. Now, I mentioned it in the first video, and I'll say it again here. I'm not using much of the original hardware. So the stuff that you're going to see me put this chain guard on with is just aftermarket. I've got a few here. I'm not sure how long. Is this one going to be long enough to do it? It might. I want it as short as possible. I don't want it sticking inside the frame. That might not be long enough. Let's go with this. Hang on just a second. Let's get this ready. All right. Put that up there. Get that started. I don't want to go super tight yet. I still need to find a bolt long enough to go in the bottom. So on the original engine, the stator cover here hung down, and so the chain guard, actually the bolt went through the chain guard, went through the stator cover, and then into the engine. This particular one does not have, the stator cover doesn't go that far. It does have, I'm pretty sure it does, yeah, there is a threaded hole So I'm gonna have to go, I need to make a little measurement, cut a little piece of round tubing spacer to fill that. And then I still need to get a longer bolt and then put a bolt in that bottom one. Well, I think I'm pretty happy with that. That doesn't look too bad. Fit on there really well. And with this particular engine and stator cover, I did not have to modify the chain guard at all. I was able to just bolt it on there as stock. I did not, if you don't know what I'm talking about, some of these stator covers, the shape right here does not line up. Now, obviously, this one's, the chain guard's a little more rounded, and this is kind of pointed, but that's close enough for me. It fit on there with no modifications, so we're going to leave it the way it is. Now that the chain and chain guard are in place, that means the wheel is pretty much where it's going to be at. Now I can go ahead and install my brake rod for my foot brake. Now I think I'm going to need, and I'm going to need to adjust this brake arm right here. If you saw the first video on this bike, you might know that I got the hub and the brake plate and all this, everything inside the rim here. It came from Bart Moto as a brand new kit, and this arm originally was bolted on going sticking down this way. And I understand why. That's for packaging reasons. You don't want, if you turn this around, it's a much smaller package to mail out. So I get it. And I just swung it around and just put it in a random spot, and I don't have it in the right spot either. All right, is that going to be a little bit closer to where we want it? We could probably go back. How much play? There's not much play. It engages almost immediately. I don't want too much thread. Let's see if we can go back maybe one notch or so. Oh boy. How about right there? You know what? Maybe I should give myself some room because I don't have the foot pegs yet. I've got brand new foot pegs ordered from Bart Moto for this. The original pegs with the clutch setup on these aftermarket engine, or this particular engine, it's a little wider. The original pegs don't want to fit on these really well without some modifications. So I just order some from Bart Moto that are meant to fit. And so that means it's got to be between the brake pedal and the engine. So we're probably going to be more like right in there. I think I might move it forward, back just a little bit. We can always adjust it again later. Let's put it, is that going to be too much? I don't know. You guys are like, Mike, just make a decision and go. And I really shouldn't even be doing this until I have the pegs, but oh well. Does the barrel fit? You know what? We could use a bigger barrel. So the brake arm on this new brake arm from Bart Moto has a larger diameter hole here for the barrel. I think I actually have some that are bigger. I think I'll go find one of those so we don't have a bunch of slop right there. So I did find a little larger barrel. Oh. Apparently I can't quite do that yet. All right, get in there. All right, we got a spring that goes on. Go through the hole. All right, and then up here on the brake pedal. Small washer that fits over that, and then find a cotter pin that's the right size we need. Probably just one of the very smallest ones I have. Probably a little long, but it'll work. I could probably cut some of that off. All right. All right, so then we have to get our foot pegs to know just how far up we can draw this back to tighten this. So, yeah. All right, so we're still waiting on those. Let's, you know what? Let's work on the exhaust. The guys who watch the channel, watch my channel on a regular basis, they're familiar with this, but I'll go over it with, you know, some of you guys may be new, haven't been watching that long. On these exhausts that I use on my rebuilds, they're just these cheap Chinese exhausts I get off of Amazon or eBay or, you know, whoever's selling them the cheapest at the time. I typically paint the little inserted recessed part right here. I paint that black. It comes just all chrome. That mimics the original look of the Honda exhaust a little bit. The original Honda exhaust had long slots right here where this has the round holes, but not that big a deal to me. The issue with these exhausts is that the distance here is just slightly longer than what stock is. So if you leave this the way it is, you can't, the engine guard hits and won't bolt up correctly. The fix that I do for this is to shorten this. I actually cut off this collar off of the exhaust, and I stock this 1.25" OD 120 wall round tubing that I cut about a 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch long piece of. So I'm going to cut this one off and then weld this one right about where the bottom of the original one sat. So it's going to lower this, it's going to shorten this by about 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch, and that allows this to fit up into the engine a little farther and gets this up high enough that the engine guard will mount on there. So that's what I'm going to do, take this back to the shop, cut that off, and weld that one in its place. So I have cut off the old collar, the little piece there. I don't know if that's collar or it's this collar. Make sure you have this piece. If you do this, make sure this one is still on there. You don't want to weld that on there without that. So that's going to fit up into there now. Now the other thing I've done to this exhaust, it originally had this what I call dog leg bracket. It's got kind of a bend to it. And that is a later design the Honda used on the CT70s, but it was not on these early bikes. And I don't like it. All right, if you keep this on here, then you don't use this little spacer right here. This is just supposed to bolt right up next to the shock, and that tucks it all back in. I see these guys use these exhausts, they keep that on there, and they go, well, why is my exhaust stick so far out? Well, that's because you didn't take that off. But I don't really like the way these aftermarket ones fit around the shock. They're a little too tight, and then you want to scrape the shock and so forth. So anyway, long story short, this particular bike, the exhaust was gone, but the bracket right here was still, it had rusted off of the exhaust, and it was still on the bike when I disassembled this. So I'm actually going to take this rusty piece, and I'm going to cut off, you know, this part up here, cut this off, and I'm going to weld it back onto that exhaust so it'll tuck back up on there. All right, so I am pretty darn happy with that. Put that bracket onto that exhaust. I still need to pull it all off, and I want to paint it with some flat black, but that is what that's kind of what we're going for right there. So, all right, I want to pull this apart, get these places where I had to take the paint off and get that painted up. So there's the finished exhaust. Looks like I got some cleanup to do here. Got that all on there, painted black. I've went ahead, it's permanently on there. I've got an exhaust gasket up in I've got it bolted to the engine. I've got it mounted solid here. There is a little tab right here. I could run a bracket like the original had down to this top engine bolt, and I still may do that. Make a little dog leg bracket to go there. Have not done it yet. The engine guard is just kind of sitting here. I have not bolted it to the bottom of the engine because I don't have the foot pegs. And I also have not put the final little chrome piece on the exhaust. This piece here. And a lot of times what I do on these aftermarket exhausts, I set it up here about where it's going to go. I cut this thing off. I don't use this bottom bend part. I cut it off just so it kind of tucks behind the spark plug guard right there. I find it fits just fine. Last couple things I can do for today before I have to head out. This was the Kickstarter that came with the engine. So we'll put it on there. I know some might not like it, but with the black, but it kind of ties in a little bit. I think it looks okay. I wish it looked a little more stockish, but hey, it is what it is. It's what came with the engine. That's what I'm going to use. So yeah, that swings out. I like how it tucks up underneath the exhaust. Some of them that they come up so high that they actually want to rattle against that. This is not going to hit anything, which is good. And then the other thing I've got is just a dress up piece. I went ahead and grabbed one of these. I grabbed a grab handle that goes right here. Now, these were not stock on the Honda CT70s. These came on the Docks models that had the center stand. They were meant for you to lift up from here to put it on the center stand, and that way you didn't tear up your seat. But, you know, the CT70 frame has these two holes. From the factory, they came with little plastic plugs. Those are long gone. So I'm going to fill those holes, I'm going to put this on here. Not going to put them in their super tight finish right now. I may either need to go with, no, I don't think I need shorter bolts, but I think I'll probably take this off. I do not have the tank in, and I don't want anything sticking in the way of the tank. It's tight enough getting it in and out, but there we go. Starting to kind of give it a little more of a finished look. Now, obviously, along with the foot pegs, I have not done any of the springs for the brake or anything like that. But I believe everything else back here is somewhat finished up. I think I'm done for the day. I need to head out of here. So I did get a notification just a little bit ago that an email or something that my foot pegs are being delivered today. So the next time I come in here, I'll have those. Can put that on, can finish putting this together. Get everything from the handlebars back kind of wrapped up, and then we can work on this front end. Well, I'm back in the shop for another day on this K3 project, and I got my foot pegs from Bart Moto yesterday. Now, you might notice I don't have the side stand, the kickstand on it yet. I think I'm going to need to lengthen it. So I have not bolted on there yet. Might have been able to go a little shorter bolts on those. I'm going to go ahead and get these started before I tighten up the back too. Just to make sure everything's in place where it's supposed to be. Where's the... Okay, let's zip that on there now. right, let's take them back out because they have to go through the guard. All right, one last, make sure those are on the way I want them. Awesome. All right, will the guard go up on there, or do we have to do some modifications to it? We've got, I ran into this with the Goldie Honda Moab bike on this with this foot pegs and with this guard. I got to trim off this guard a little bit. It won't, it sticks out too far and it hits on the foot pegs and won't let you push it up in there far enough to get the holes lined up. So I gotta take this back off and trim, just kind of grind that down just a little bit right here on the back. Just in case you didn't see the other video, I'm not sure what I'm talking about. Between the bolts holes right here, this right through here, I need to bring that down just a little bit, just so that'll get up past those foot pegs. Not even sure if you can tell that there's a whole lot of difference there, but I did kind of take this down all the way to where the this little spot's welded on. Got everything below that. I think it should bolt on now. Let's give it a try here. Without scratching the paint up there. Yeah, I think that's going to fit pretty well. Oh, I took my other, there it is. All right, so now I can go back up top here and, without even having to really bend them or anything, they lined right up, so that worked out pretty well. So let me get some hardware and I'll finish putting the guard on. Then we've got to go around and double check our brake adjustment for our brake pedal. All right, got the foot pegs mounted, the engine guard and spark plug guard are mounted. I still need to put the guard on the exhaust up there. You know, earlier we adjusted this arm and we talked about needing to wait to do a final adjustment on the brake pedal until we had the foot pegs on. Well, now we've got that, so we can tighten this up a little bit. And we'll have to make final adjustment once we've got it off the table and riding it. That's not too bad. I may have to bend this brake pedal. The engine case is a little wider than stock on these, so the pedal might be tucked. I might bend that out and bend it up a little bit. So we may still have some more final adjustment to do. Sorry, my heat is kicking on. Let's see, how does that gonna go? That's gonna go there. And boy, we've got a long way to get that spring on there. Let's see if we can do it this way. Sometimes I'm successful and sometimes I'm not. Hey, did it, first shot, that's not too bad. All right, there's that. And then we need a, that'll be long enough. Yeah, it probably would be. Typically what this does, it runs down through the spring. And then it hooks on the bottom of the spring down here. 3 hooks, all right. Ooh, I don't know. That might not be long enough. I might not have given myself enough there. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to, yeah, I'm already going to have the brake pedal, the switch activated. I don't think that spring is going to be long enough, unfortunately, after I put that on there. It's part of this, guys. Sometimes you got to back up and punt. I've got another one here that's a new one. It's a lot longer. Let's see if we can. I've got a lot of adjustment on the switch to go up, but where it's at right now, I don't have a lot to go down, so. Yeah, it was adjusted all the way to the other end. That doesn't look too bad. There again, we won't. We'll make a final adjustment when we get the electrical all plugged in and do those things. All right. Are we done from the back half? Let me put this guard on this exhaust, and then I think we're ready to move to the handlebars. So I think I'm ready to put a fender on it. I probably should have picked up some new fenders for this thing. They're going to be the weak link as far as the looks on this thing. But, you know, that'll give the next guy something to do. Well, I thought I ran a tap up and through that. Why is that not going? Hit it with an ugga-dugga, maybe it'll go. Yeah, there it goes. I am putting a new horn. Make sure it'll clear. I think so. We may have to bend the bracket out a little bit. The nut on the back of the horn that holds the horn to the bracket, it's going to be awfully close to this spine with this little piece here that's sticking up. We'll see once we've got it all bolted on. The fender's not in bad shape, it's just the chrome on it's not really all that great. I saw where Bart Moto now is stocking the more correct looking fenders, the ones with the rolled lips and stuff. I did not look to see what kind of price those are. I can't turn the wheel. I think that might clear. We'll bend it out just oh yeah, definitely. We're good there. All right, and I just picked that. That's a 6-volt horn. I just picked it up off of Amazon. 6-volt horns will work with the 12-volt system. Just, you know, don't just lay on the horn for minutes on end and it'll be, you know, if you're just beeping it, it's just fine. Okay, I still have not decided what I want to do here on headlight ears. Those are the ones, the stock ones are a little rougher than what I had anticipated. They do have some bends and stuff in them. I think I'm just going to make some to fit on there. But let's skip ahead. Should we skip ahead? No, we shouldn't skip ahead. We need to do this and then put the handlebars on. That way we don't have to take this top clamp off with all the handlebars and stuff. So I'm going to go out in the shop, cut a couple tubes, cut a couple ears to hold headlight and the turn signals, and then I'll have to get those all painted up. Probably just go silver, maybe? Yeah, I got some stuff to figure out. So, all right, we'll pick you up here in just a few minutes. All right, so as I wrap up my few hours of shop time today, got to head out. Here's where I'm at. You saw me kind of somewhat finish up the back end, and I've been working on the front end, and it takes a little longer than what I anticipated. So I've got some headlight ears made to hold the headlight and the turn signals. I just bought a generic little speedometer. It actually goes to 160 mile an hour. I don't think we will be testing that. It has a trip, but I had to cut the knob off for the trip to reset it to be able to fit in here. It wouldn't fit in this space with the knob on there, so the trip's going to be non-usable, unfortunately, but that's the way it goes. I am using just like K0, K1 style handlebars. I'll wind up cutting this perch off. You know, there is no rear handbrake on this bike. It's just a foot rear brake. So I'm going to cut this off, and I will probably, well, I know I will put some aftermarket controls to control the headlight and the turn signals and the horn or whatever on that side. So that'll get cut off and basically get covered up by those controls. So I think where I'm at now is I need to tear all that back apart, and I need to take these headlight ears off and get some paint on those. And you know, the originals were chrome. I think I'm just going to paint them the universal aluminum like I painted the top clamp here, so that'll kind of match. So probably do that, and then we're just about ready to wire and fire this thing. Well, hey everybody, it is now a week later from when the last time I filmed on this. I just been kind of busy, had some things going on. As you can see, I have gone ahead and painted the fork ears, the universal aluminum. I have to admit that I messed up and got ahead of myself and did not do something that I really wanted to do, and that was put some reflectors on the side of these. I should have, before I painted them, drilled a hole, welded a 5mm nut to have something to give the reflector to thread into, and I forgot. I painted them, and I'm not going to go back and redo it now. The other thing, given a week to think about things and so forth, I've decided to make some changes to the bars. So let me pull you in, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. When I left you off at the a few days ago, a week ago, when I was filming, I talked about how I was going to use some K0, K1 style bars that have the welded perch and so forth, and I have decided to go something different. These are the Trail Buddy, I believe they call them the 2-inch taller bars, if I'm not mistaken. You know, so they're up a little bit higher. They do have a slightly different bend to them, but I'm okay with that. They do not come with any kind of perch, which is fine because I'll be using this style on it. I don't need one for this side because there is no rear hand brake, which is one of the reasons. I really can't give you a good reason why I changed handlebars other than I just thought this was going to be an easier setup. I had the parts to do this, the brake cable and so forth. Anyway, I just think there's a little more comfortable too than the other bars. So that's why I'm going with it. So anyway, let me gather up some parts I'm going to need. The throttle, the other control for this side and so forth to run the turn signals and so all that good stuff. And let's get all that thrown onto the bike. I'm going to be using the same cheap Amazon throttle setup that I use on basically all my builds. I think this is like 15 bucks or less, and it comes with all the parts you see here, both grips, the throttle tube, and a throttle cable. I'll try and remember to put a link in the description of this video on this. Now, I don't know if you can see it. You might be able to see it. There's a little bitty hole right there in these handlebars, and this throttle setup actually has right there, see that little pin sticking down? That is to fit in that hole to keep this from spinning as you twist the throttle. You can actually remove this little pin if you want to and not use it. I like to keep it in there, but I know from prior experience, it's too big to fit in that hole. And I don't know that that hole is exactly where I need it to be. I need to find out. Yeah, see, I don't think my grip will let me go in far enough to actually reach that hole. So we might wind up cutting a little bit. I might use this hole and cut off the bar and shorten them, because they are kind of long here. I don't want to get them too narrow. So I got to make a decision. I got to pull this apart. I want to set this on there, and I have to make a decision. Do I want to leave them the width that they are, or do I want to cut this off and put all this in just a little bit tighter? You know, I think I'm going to leave the bars the length that they are. I like having, I don't want to feel too narrow. I think I want the wider stance on the bars. Plus, I'm thinking that if I'm actually trying to get a title for this bike so it can be street ridden, and the extra length here, the room, will give me some place to put a GPS speedometer if this thing doesn't work the way I want it to, or if I need to put one of those USBs to plug, charge a phone or whatever, then I've got room on the handlebar. If I start shortening all this up, then I've got no place to put it. But right now, I think this grip, this lever perch might be right in here, so there might actually be some room to utilize it. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna go get a drill and drill. I gotta put my throttle on there, mark where my hole needs to be, drill a completely new hole. I think this might cover where that hole was, and I think I'm going to leave them just the way they are. Okay, I want to make sure that I don't have it too far that way. I don't want the end of the grip really rubbing the bar, so I want to kind of back off just slightly. Somewhere in there. Yep, about right in there. Let's try that. So it looks like I'm going to be about 3/4 of an inch over from where the original hole was, 5/8 to 3/4. And I'm going to go get a drill, put a new hole. Yeah, that one wouldn't have fit in the old hole. All right, we're going to do that. Yeah, I think that'll work. Yeah, and that hole just keeps this from being able to twist if you yank on it too hard or whatever. All right, I got to take just a second away from installing this throttle to show you guys something. See how that floor is dry over in that corner? You can see there's a ceiling tile up there that's new. I've got new ceiling tiles up here. Obviously, they don't quite match the old faded ones, but my floor is dry over here. It is raining fairly good this morning. Oh, my door's locked, sorry. But hopefully you can see that that's wet outside there. Well, I have had this old building for about 7 or 8 years, and ever since the day I bought it, this roof back here has leaked and would get wet anytime it rained. I mean, there were big holes in the floor, or in the roof. Well, thanks to you guys, I got to show you something. I mentioned this in a post, not too long ago. But I don't think I've done it in the video yet. But thanks to you guys, I got a new roof. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. That keeps everything inside nice and dry. What happened was, there used to be a really big tree right here that grew up. When I bought this building, there was about a 3-foot pile of leaves right there on that roof, and there was a huge hole in it. And then there was I don't know what caused the hole on this end over here, but there was also a hole in the roof there. But no more. Thanks to you guys and watching the videos and subscribing and commenting and all that kind of stuff. The payments that I get from YouTube, which are not extensive by any stretch, help pay for that new roof, and I do appreciate it. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but the rain has really picked up since we were just outside. All right, let's see if we can get this thing out of our way. Probably just put it more in my way. I think I did. The other way. There's a little recessed area for those hex nuts to fit in. So once you get them started, they fit up in there. All right. Where's that? Oh, perfect. I like it. All right, and so that'll get fed down through there someplace for our carburetor for a throttle. This is for, I turned this throttle assembly comes with like a yellow start button. I use it as a kill button. So that'll get put down in there also. All right, get a wrench and let's tighten up our lever here. Some might ask what this wire is coming off of the perch right here, and this is for the front brake switch. For when you pull the lever to hit your brakes, it turns on the brake light. There's a little pin right in here, this white thing. Hopefully you guys can see that, and it's spring loaded. So when the lever is pulled back by the cable, that disconnects the 2 wires in there and shuts off kills power to the brake light. And as soon as you pull on this, it allows that pin to pop out, which then makes a connection between the 2 wires and sends power back to the brake light, and that's what illuminates it until it's back in this position. Just so in case anybody had any question about what this wire is. Well, since we're working on the front brake and that perch up there, let's just go ahead and put the front brake cable on. The brake cable all installed, the throttle assembly up here, the perch is ready to go. Everything on that handlebar is pretty much wrapped up. I still need to, I haven't put a carburetor on this obviously to put a throttle cable, but still have that. So I'm ready to move to the other side. I picked up just this generic left-hand switch. This is what I used on both of my Moab bikes I built. And it's just got high-low, turn signal, and a horn. But it comes with that 6-pin connector right there. And most everything in here is bullet connectors. So I need to pull this off and install the correct bullet end that matches the wiring I've got here. So I'm going to do that next. So I have changed all the connectors to bullet connectors on this left side control, and I have put it up here on the handlebars, and I got an issue. I've got that tightened up as tight as I can get it, and it still doesn't clamp onto the bar. I'm not sure if it's a bar issue or if it's a this issue. I could take it apart, maybe grind some off. Unfortunately, I think I'm just going to do it the cheap way, and I think I'm just going to wrap a couple wraps of black electrical tape around the bar to make it a little thicker. It's not like this thing gets twisted, you know, with the throttle. It should, once I get it in place, hopefully it should stay. To know where I need to put it, I need to put this on there. So, all right, I'm gonna grab a, don't have my screwdriver. I need to take it apart. I'm gonna wrap it up, see if I can't make that a little thicker so that that will clamp down tight. Well, I have rednecked that about as well as I can. Well, I can't even put a screwdriver in there. What's going on? Well, I might have too much. I might have put too much on there. Get on there. Sorry, I'm probably standing right in your way. Yeah, you know what? I might have got a little aggressive with the tape. Because now I don't think it's gonna. Well, let's see. Hang on a second. I'll probably pull the threads right out of that thing. Shh. Don't talk like that, Mike. Oh, that's going to be good and tight. Good enough. Now I can run this over here. Boy, the wires are just barely long enough, but I think we'll make them work. Okay, I have to stop on the electrical because I am short a handful of double female bullet connectors that like I need for the turn signal. I need double females on these so that one, the turn signal itself can plug into it, and then the left and right up here on the switch has wires that need to plug into this. And I am completely out of those bullet connector double females. Went down to the auto parts store. They don't have any. So I've ordered them from Amazon, and they should be here tomorrow, it said. So I will have to finish up all my electrical sometime in the next couple days. So let's move on to something else. Well, since I can't make any more progress on the wiring, I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and let's put a carburetor on this thing. Now I'm using a Nibbi 19 millimeter. This is a 110 cc engine. Normally my builds are 125 cc, and I use a 22 millimeter Nibbi. I actually had someone give me a couple of these carbs. They were working on a project and they were trying to dial in what carb and so forth they wanted to use, and he passed along. I had given him some pieces, other pieces for the project, and so he passed along to me the extra carburetors, a couple carburetors that he had tried and then didn't use. And so that's what this one is. This is a 19 millimeter Nibbi. It has been used. I did open it up. I wanted to check and make sure it had all the factory settings to it, the jets and so forth. I wanted to get a baseline back to factory, and then if I need to make some changes, you know, then I'll kind of know where I'm at. Okay. That seems pretty good. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to guess the 19 millimeter has the same issue that the 20 millimeter has, or the 22 has, and that I'm going to have some slack in here. But before I put any kind of spacer in, let's go ahead and just double check that first. Maybe it won't. Maybe this particular throttle setup is, we won't need a spacer. I'm not really sure yet. It looks like we might. Looks like that's kind of long in there. Looks like it, let's get it tightened down here. And what I'm talking about is when you roll the throttle, yeah, I've got some play. So I'm rolling the throttle and pulling the cable, and nothing is happening with the carb because there's too much slack. All right, so I'm gonna take this back off. What have I got going on here? All right, there we go. Now, in the past, you guys have seen me take the end of an ink pen and cut it off and make a little spacer that fits in here, that then so basically what we need to do is instead of letting the cable drop all the way into here, we need to kind of hold it back just a little bit. And like I said, I used to make a spacer out of ink pens, but I've got something else. I was not prepared. Hang on just one second. So I actually played around with making something like this out of 3/8 aluminum round bar, and then I machined it in my lathe and made a spacer that would fit in there, and then the cable goes in there. Well, I was on Amazon the other day and I ran across these. And so I'm wondering if I'm gonna try using something like that. Oh boy. See if how that's gonna work. Okay, so we've got the cable. We need, is my cable not going? Well, no, already shot me down. That doesn't fit. I can't believe that doesn't fit the barrel of that. The piece on the end of the throttle cable is bigger diameter than the piece center of that. Well, you know what? That's easy fix. We'll drill this rascal out. Well, that was pretty simple, and let's see if I picked the right one. Yeah, I got one that'll work. Don't ask me what size I used. I just grabbed a drill bit, held it up there, and said, okay, that's a little bit bigger than what the hole is. And this thing has got, well, it's got a couple nuts on it. It also has a fairly long threaded stem here. I don't know, maybe we'll need to trim that back and shorten that. We might have too much distance. I'm really not sure. We're kind of flying by the seat of our pants here, guys. But it seems a little short. Now it seems like I don't have enough cable. I probably ought to just do some measuring. Figure it out for sure. All right, let's put that in there. You know what? That actually feels like it's going all the way bottom. Definitely took all the slack out of it. Well, I think that worked pretty well. We probably don't need those nuts on there. I could take those off or put some more on there to fill that gap so it wouldn't look, because this thing, can I get that to go down on there farther? Not really. It almost looked better if it had another nut on there. That's about the right thickness, and that way you wouldn't see those threads. Yep, I'm gonna try that. Give me a second. Oh, I actually like that. I like the way that worked out. I wish I had another piece of this black rubber, something that would fit over that to cover all that. Might have to look into that next, but oh yeah, that feels really, really good. Well, you know what? I think even though I don't have all the electrical, I've got enough hooked up that I can actually fire this thing up. I just can't run the lights. You know what? That's what we're gonna do. Let's hear this thing run. You know what? We need to, I think before I cut that, I'm gonna put some fuel in this tank and just make sure we flush out anything that's, I clean, ran metal rescue and all that, or not metal rescue, vapor rust and all that stuff through that tank. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's put some fuel in it and see if it'll fire up. So I put a fuel shutoff valve in line. Now I have plugged off the on line coming out of the tank, and we're just using the reserve line. Let's see if that gets us enough. Which way is this got to turn? I'll turn this one. Turn it on, Mike. It's starting to dribble. There we go. I like to run just a little bit of fuel just to make sure that there's no crap sitting at the bottom of the tank or anything like that in the line itself. Let's go ahead and turn that on. Let that be filling the bowl. We still have to plug in the wiring, let's see, on the engine here. Let's make sure that we're not going to have any kind of hot wires that are exposed when we turn something on. Okay, that should be good. Okay, I don't need fuel leaks, no fuel leaks, that's good. I should have did this before I put that air cleaner thing on there. All right, so this is the ground. Okay, blue and white, where's the blue and white? And the black and red. And that's the only three wires we need to make it run. The yellow, the white are charging lighting wires, and then there's a green with a red tracer on there. That's a neutral indicator. Okay, we'll just leave this hanging out here. I'll let the table down because I'm not going to climb up there. Nope. Key. Okay, so key in the first position. Actually, we should not have turned on anything electrically. All we've done is disconnect the CDI from ground. So we should not have any kind of wiring issues. I was afraid for a second that I had shortened that cable too much and it was holding the slide up, but I'm able to adjust the idle with the idle screw, so I think we're all right. Oh yeah, that's heavy. Fantastic. That's got good response too. I think we'll be all right with the setup on the carburetor. All right, I should have, if I get it right, I should have a kill button right here. I do. All right, and we should be able to kill it here. We can. Okay, so that pretty much gets me to what I can do for today. I have to wait on those bullet connectors so that I can finish the wiring in the headlight, the wiring at the engine, and my I need a double female for my grounds for my turn signals back here. So I can't finish the wiring. As soon as I get those, we should be able to wire it up and then take it out for a spin. It's still raining today, so not a good day to go outside anyway. All right, I'll see you guys in a couple days. All right, guys, so I'm a couple days down the road, and I have gotten my little Amazon wiring kit in, and I was able to, it was all the ground wires. I needed to get a double female bullet connector in the headlight for a couple grounds for the turn signals up there. I needed it in the back for the ground for the turn signals in the back, and then I had one here at the engine. So got that all wired. It should be, there we go, headlights, horn, should have some turn signals. We do, and should have a brake light. You guys probably won't be able to see that, but we got brakes, so we're good to go on the wiring. I think the bike is ready. The last thing I want to do, this is going to seem kind of silly, but I need to do it. When I got this carburetor, when the guy gave me the carburetor, it had this hardware already with it, and it had gold colored nuts. I don't know if you can see that, and I want to switch to silver. I don't have really anything else gold on here, and every time I look at that carburetor, those two nuts just kind of stand out. So we're going to swap those real quick, and then we are going to pull it down off the table. I haven't checked the temperature outside today, but I think we're going to take it for a spin around the block. It might be a little chilly, but yeah, it'll be a short, quick ride. We'll see how it goes. Well, it has been 2 or 3 days since I last started this thing, so let's make sure it'll fire back up. The good news is I mistakenly left the petcock on for the last few days, and it did not, we don't have any fuel spilling out. All right. Choke on. I'm just going the first notch. Should not be any lights. Oh, what dick. Okay, Scott Gold, I did remember to change put a 12-volt bulb, so we better not blow the bulb. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna wheel it outside, put a camera on, take you guys for a ride. We'll check and see if the speedometer works. Might need to turn the idle back up a little bit. Let's take it outside. I have not worn this chest camera thing in quite some time. Hopefully it's not too bumpy. What is this? This is a up shift. Man, it's chilly out here, fellas. Maiden voyage, here we go. Speedometer seems to be moving. Signals work. Carb's got a little hesitation in it. All right, everyone, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap the video up here. Obviously, I still need to do a little work to the carburetor. When I hold the bike at a steady speed, like 25 mile per hour, it wanted to kind of buck or jerk a little bit. So I'm going to wait for it to be a warmer day than what it is today, but I'm going to have to pull the carburetor off and maybe play with some jets or some needle settings or something. It pulls hard off the line and it revs really well. It idles really well. It's just when you're trying to hold that nice steady speed. So yeah, so anyway, I've still got that to do, but I'm pretty happy with the bike overall. I mean, I'm super thrilled with how it turned out, how it looks. This was one of those old Michigan camp bikes that I got a year or so ago. And if you saw video 1, it was in pretty rough shape, but we brought it back around. So I actually, you'll see it again. I'm trying to get a title for this thing, but I'm using a different process than what I've used in the past to obtain titles. I just wanted to see if something else would work. Give me something to show you guys if you're looking to obtain a title. So it probably will be a month or so down the road. I'll know if I actually did get one. So look forward to that. Look forward to the bike. But for right now, I think we're going to wrap it up, and I'll see you guys on the next video.